on this episode of the People of Pearland Podcast.
And I was like, all right, I'll go. So I was planning to stay 3 days, called my job and said, hey, take 3 more days off. And he was like, all right, that's fine. And so we drove back, got down here, supposed to stay 3 days, stayed 2 weeks.
Dang.
My brother came with me, which is 2 years younger than me, and he went back to finish high school. I stayed, never went back.
What? Stay tuned for more. Welcome, everybody, to the next episode of the People of Pearland Podcast. We have with us today, what do you go by? Do you go by Nate? Nathan?
Yep.
Nathaniel?
Nathaniel is the full name, but...
Bartholomew?
Yep. I like that.
Nate?
Yep.
Nate Smith. He's our Backflow coordinator.
Yes, sir.
In our environmental services division of Pearland Water, which is our utility that we provide for the city of Pearland, right? Did I get all that right?
Yes, sir.
That feels right.
It's a lot of labels, but I like it. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
I'm Josh Lee, one of the hosts.
Joe Calderon, and as he said, we have Nate here with us, and we're going to get into all the fun facts about our guest today.
Yeah. So where do we start? What about Nate?
Where do we start?
Man, how long have you been with the city of Pearland?
Almost 5 years in January.
Nice.
5 years.
Okay.
Would you do backflow prevention the whole time?
I was in DNC, distribution collections.
Okay.
Started there repairing water and sewer lines, things like that.
Yeah.
Then moved to new construction within DNC and installing water and sewer line. That was fun.
I didn't realize that we installed our own water and sewer lines. I thought that we subcontracted all of that.
We used to under CIP projects. Recently went away with it, but
Okay.
Interesting.
yeah. That was the funnest part about being here, learning that. Yeah.
The new construction piece.
New
of it?
construction.
Yeah. On the repair side, what's the craziest thing you ever had to do on a repair?
Is OSHA here?
Oh, no.
Yeah, we'll scratch that one.
And I think it was a 10-inch water main that cracked and busted, and we had to go out there and fix it, but we couldn't find a valve to turn the water off.
Oh, man.
So you had to fix it under pressure?
Under pressure.
Okay, so on a repair like that, even though it's a 10-inch pipe, can you put a band on it still, or how does a repair work on something that size?
Yeah, they make bands for them where you can put a band on it, or use a high max where you can just cut the pipe down the middle and slide the high max in there, tighten it up,
Gotcha.
and stop the leak pretty much.
So the high max is like a compression fitting on either
Pretty
end?
much, yep.
Okay,
Yep.
gotcha. I've used one of those before.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just not a 10-inch.
No.
Yeah.
So I have this little known special skill. If I'm digging, there will more often than not be a sprinkler line there.
Yeah.
One time I was putting a stake in the ground for a tree, and I was like, this will be fine. Put the stake in, drove right through a sprinkler line.
Of course.
So I got really used to knowing how to use compression fittings because that's the easiest thing to
I think I have that karma too, actually.
Do you really?
Yeah.
That might be bad luck for a distribution and collection.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're working at Backflow now. So how long have you been doing that?
2 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 years now.
And what does that entail? What do you do?
Pretty much we start with customer service inspection. So we go around private and commercial, mostly commercial. We see what people are using, what type of water line. We see what their potable water line is connected to, soda machines, chemical feeds, chillers, things like that. We do an inspection and we make sure that appropriate backflow prevention device is connected to it.
And it's mainly commercial, right? That you're
mainly
inspecting
commercial.
Yeah.
Yep.
And backflow prevention is just a mechanism that sits in place that prevents the water that's already entered into the business or home or whatever from siphoning back into the system in case there's a drop in pressure, right?
Correct. Man, he can
Look
do
at
my
him.
job, man. That's
He's
it.
got
That's
it,
the whole
yeah.
program right there.
And why is it important?
It's important because you can have non-hazardous chemicals. You have contaminants, and that can get in the line, and if it's to flow back and can hurt people, kill people, etc. Things like that.
Yeah. People that have pools, right? They have to have backflow preventers.
Yes,
right?
sir. Yeah.
Because pool water's chlorinated,
Right.
or like you don't know what's in there, and we don't want that getting in the public system. And,
Exactly. Yeah. It's a story out there of a house. A pool guy came to a house in North Texas and filled up the pool and chlorinated it way too much. And so when he noticed he chlorinated it too much, he tried to get it out because the pool system and the pump system was connected to the house, domestic water use. Well, he didn't get it out in time, and he got it out the wrong way, so it all back siphoned inside the house. Everybody was okay, but the whole family got sick.
Oh,
man.
Yeah. So it's important, you know, especially on those pool systems.
Yeah. What kind of schedule are y'all on to be able to, you know, maintain and check and on all these commercial properties that have that? Like, how does that work for y'all?
It's a good question. So on all the commercial properties, it's once a year.
Okay.
So some commercial properties have 50 backflows, some have 2, and annually, once a year, you know, they have to test those backflows and ensure that they're working correctly. And so how we do that, we go out and we do inspections and we say, hey, you know, make sure your backflows in the same place, make sure they're still hooked up correctly, making sure they are getting tested. And we have a state-approved form that we use, and we keep that in our database to make sure that those businesses, restaurants, things like that are getting tested annually.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Fascinating.
And what is a backflow prevention device? What is it? I mean, is it?
So the best form of backflow prevention is an air gap. So let's just use an example. If you go in a restaurant and you see a 3-compartment sink and you see the bottom of the sink, the drain to the floor, well, that's the best form is an air gap because there's no way that anything from that drain is getting back into the sink or the water supply.
Right.
Other than that, you have mechanically, you know, approved backflow preventers where you put them in certain places based on their hazard. Mm-hmm. Yep, and we have 4 different types there. We have a double check, we have a RPZ, we have a PVB, and an SVB. And so based on the hazard, we have those installed in different places
we got the
around
ABCs
the city.
And 1, 2, 3s. And,
Yeah.
so, I mean, I would imagine that mechanical ones are really just like a valve of some kind that
Correct.
moves one direction but not the other.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Man, look at you.
I mean, you know, bit of a nerd.
No, it's fascinating because I've always heard the term, and I've never done my research for backflow, but yeah, that's awesome.
I have seen the air gap type where it's like a pipe drops and then there's like, you know, an air gap between them, right? So it can go one direction but can't go back.
Right.
And the most common form actually is the garden hose, you know. So say you have a pool system and you don't have a pump, you fill it up the old-fashioned way. Oops.
That was his phone dropping. That's fine. Don't worry
You
about
fill it up the old-fashioned way and you lay the hose in the pool. Well, let's just say a back siphoning event happens.
Right.
Well, now all
Suck
of that
water out of
going inside the house. So, that's the most common cars connection, and we look at those a lot.
Yeah. Interesting.
So people don't have automatic fillers or whatever.
Nowadays they're going to them, but some people, if they don't want to pay for it, or you know, they're going to it.
And like, I mean, this is a state initiative, right? The backflow prevention.
Correct.
So it's a legislative, like, if you don't do it correctly, you could be fined.
Correct.
It. Right.
And a lot of people think it's, you know, the city's 3 forms of this. A lot of people think it's the city. Hey, the city's coming after me. Things like that, and then we, you know, have to tell people what is state or mandated, and then from the state says, well, EPA actually tells us we have to do it. So it's not the state actually, it's not us, but it's EPA. You know,
just like our water line inventorying that we have to do,
right?
Where we have to test for lead and things like that.
Yes.
Set up an inventory across the entire system.
Yep.
That's mandated. That's EPA pushed all the way down through state and then to us.
Exactly. And I'm glad you brought that up because yesterday was the last day that all cities were supposed to have their inventory turned in.
Right.
October 16th. So
that's exciting. I didn't realize.
Wow. And those guys hit the ground running
they were hustling trying to get all that stuff done. Yeah. I don't remember how many connections, potential connections we had in the city. I want to say it was like upwards of maybe 10,000, if I remember correctly. But is anything built before 1988? I think is somewhere in there. And then they had to test both the supply side and the customer side.
Right.
Correct.
And now there's an inventory of that somewhere.
And now that inventory starts, and the word is 2027 is the time where you have to figure out where when and how to get these things replaced.
Right.
Yeah. So were you a part of that process at all, or did you have anything to do with that?
Just a little bit. Okay. So with our CSIs, it tells you when the house is, built or businesses are coming. Those CSIs, we tell you within the CSI what type of line. Customer service inspection.
Okay.
Pretty much in that sheet, the plumbing inspectors use them. Water specialist, or like me, if you're licensed with a CSI license, you go out and do these inspections, and it tells you what water lines, if they have lead, copper, PEX, things like that. Okay. And so those records we provide and say, hey, this is what's out there already. So if you know what's out there, if it's a newer house built after 2014, you don't have to do it because you know it's all PEX in the house. Right. It's a new house. So
interesting. Yeah. So they're all PEX now.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Must be nice.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Must be. I know, right?
Yeah. Interesting.
My house is all copper.
Well, mine was built in '76, so I'm sure it's
probably.
Yeah.
Probably copper.
Interesting.
Replumb.
You're probably going to segue into
podcasting.
Yeah, but I don't want to go there yet.
Yeah. No, that's because, what I was. That's too abrupt of a transition.
Yeah, well,
you gotta ease into it.
You gotta ease into it. No, I want to talk about, because you got on our radar because Jasmine and Kathleen got to spend some time with you during the cleanup from the hurricane and everything like that. So talk a little bit about that experience, because that's kind of feels outside of your daily duties, but it's something that we all had to take part in somehow with the efforts of debris removal.
So that experience for me was exciting. I'll say I was here when I think what was it, the freeze?
Uri.
Yeah, Uri.
Right.
But I'm originally from Wisconsin. I moved there 5 years ago, so it's completely new for me with hurricanes and everything.
Right.
So this was exciting because the contractors, the residents, what to put out there, the wording, things like that, getting the right information and the right people, and never-ending days. That was the most interesting part about it. But it was fun because you meet new people in the process, and when that event, we're in Texas, so when that comes around again, you know what to do, what not to do, who to call, who not to call,
sure.
And where to put people in the correct positions, or things like that. So that experience for me was exciting and kind of, I want to say traumatizing, because the actual storm, it was like, are we going to get through this, or
right.
it's because but when after you get through it, you say, okay, that wasn't that bad, and then you know how to better prepare for the next time.
For sure.
What did they have you doing during Barrel?
So during Barrel, I actually left the day of the storm. I went back home to Wisconsin. When I came back, the house was a little flooded and things like that. So I wasn't actually here during the storm. So luckily I got away.
Yeah.
But when I came back, it's pretty much the contractors monitoring them, making sure that everything was being done correctly, things like that.
Yeah.
So that was a fun process.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No.
I was just going to say, we took multiple trips out to the debris field, and I was just so impressed by that work and everything. It was just amazing efforts from everybody.
A staggering amount of limbs.
Right.
I mean, considering it was like a minor, not a minor. I mean, it was a hurricane for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, it pruned everything.
Yeah, it did.
And an impressive sight for sure. Yeah. To me, the interesting thing about this storm, because we've activated for hurricanes before, some that are one that had like max wind speeds of 13 miles an hour,
right,
and, stuff like that. But sleeping in the public safety building, and like the power blips, and then middle of the night the lights come back on, and you're like,
right,
what's happening right now? Night shift was fine; they were awake, but us day shifters were trying to sleep, and inevitably it happens every single time.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I had a big Xerox machine of mine that kept going out whenever the power, and that kept waking me up. That was funny.
But weirdly, like, I don't remember that during. Oh, I was gonna say I didn't remember that during Uri, but the power was already out.
Yeah,
by the time we
right.
got there, and we were on generator power. That whole week.
That's how we were at the old public service building.
Yeah.
And the power was out. It was cold. And
so you were in DNC for Uri probably.
At that time. Yep.
Yeah. Golly. So you were doing probably water shutoffs and stuff like that.
I bet that was crazy.
I think we answered like 500 something calls to shut off water once everything started thawing and everything.
And then you go into people's houses and let them know I only can turn it off at the meter, and their whole house is flooding, and it was crazy. Yeah.
Who did we have with us? So it was John Hines that we had meet. That was the day that I found Baby Blue.
Right. We were rolling through Southtown.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't remember who it was. We shot a video on how to secure your water, how to turn it off. Which was, I mean, it's called 1900, and they'll do it at the meter, or if you can find it at your house, shut it off there. And we've used that video
pretty much every storm now. We put that video out because it's proactive now.
It's
right?
helpful,
for sure.
And we shot it like on, I think, day 4 when we were a little rough.
Yeah. Wow.
I think I started it with like, when cold weather hit. Like, no, that's not. And we just went with it.
It still works. It
still gets the job
so done. When stuff hits the fan, how is it for you guys? Like, if because from what I've seen, it's like your guys constantly moving, like it's nonstop.
The most common activation we get is a hurricane or a weather event, right? And so those are pretty normal. Normal's not the word, but we know what to do. So we actually meet as a team. All of the public information officers, we meet before hurricane season starts, and we say, okay, A team, B team, day shift, night shift. So Joe and I activate on days with a couple of other people. Kathleen and Jasmine and Chad Rogers do nights.
Okay.
And then we hold a couple people in reserve to rotate in as we start to hit burnout. And that way, as soon as we know, so you'll typically have a handful of incident management. You'll identify the incident management team. They'll have calls with a policy group well before the hurricane's a real threat. And then they'll make a decision of a go, no go for activating the EOC.
Gotcha.
And as soon as they do that, we stand up. It's called a Joint Information Center. So we establish our Joint Information Center. Day shift knows when to report. Typically, it's day shift comes in, night shift comes in later that day. Day shift spends the night shift takes over, and then we ride the storm out that way. We've been fortunate to go through enough that I feel like we have a pretty good battle rhythm.
Right.
Yeah.
But every activation is an opportunity to improve.
For sure.
Gotcha.
And so we try to do a hot wash every time and look at the things that went well, improve on the things that could be improved. And we look at every type of activation and try to find the subtle differences plus the common themes that we see throughout.
Right.
So, entombment of George Floyd is one. That was a planned activation. One day, super intense. Wide variety of people in the room, lots of law enforcement. We may not do anything like that again, but there were elements of our overall preparedness that helped us for that.
Right. Yeah. And the interesting thing about that one was it was during COVID, so the EOC was already activated for that.
Yep.
And there was a hurricane in the Gulf at the same time.
That,
And so it was just like high alert on all levels, right?
Yeah.
It was crazy.
And the two things we know, right? We're in perpetual training trying to get better, and that disasters are going to happen, right? We have a responsibility to respond to them. And those are immovable. So we do our best to try to do the best we can given the circumstances. The one really unfortunate one that always comes to mind for me now is the shooting event that we had at the Kohl's Flea Market. And first call came in at about 5:30. And by about 6:15, we had our mobile command post, our Scooby-Doo van, on scene, set up as a mobile joint information center with 3 PIOs and assistant chief in it. And we were telling reporters, this is where you go if you want to do a press conference or on air, pressers or anything like that. And for us to be able to stand up that quickly and then to be effective was, a very good, really unfortunate circumstance, but it's a testament to the effort that we put into making sure we're prepared for just about any eventuality. And so it's always exciting. I mean, every potential disaster, there's definitely an energy, a nervous buzz until everybody kind of sets in, and then once you hit the battle rhythm, it's like, all right, we're good.
Right.
And our public safety building, when it comes to natural disasters, I feel pretty safe there. I mean,
for sure. But I like what you said. Yeah. Every situation has been an opportunity to learn something different. I mean, I think now we know a lot more about debris and that kind of things now after this last run, and we know a lot more about pipes and things after winter freeze, and it's you start to get this collective knowledge among everybody, and I think it's really interesting.
Yeah. We know what snacks to buy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
that's real important.
It is,
especially in the Joint Information Center. Golly, you got to have the good stuff.
There are some good snacks in there. Yeah,
tahini sunflower seeds. Just good, magical. Yeah, gets me through a tough shift.
This guy.
But no, it's fun. It's I say it a lot because when I came into this job, my background was in marketing and advertising. And I had no emergency management experience really whatsoever. And so talking with Peter Martin, he set up a plan to help me train my way through it to gain experience very quickly. And now it's probably one of my favorite parts of the job because it is, I think everything that we do with the city is important. I keep hitting my microphone. But that's one of those that's that's where
it's a direct impact. Yeah.
So what type of information do you need when something hits the fan? Okay, what's the first thing to do? Who the first person to call? Those type of things, or even if you're you're new to it, what is the first step for you guys normally?
So normally, we get a call from whoever whoever the current incident commander is. So I guess citywide pretty much they know that we have a set of primary public information officers. If there is an incident like the potential threat they had over at Barry Rose, we get a phone call. Raquel works in the fire department. She's a PIO there, right? So we'll consult with her, let her lead on that. We show up on scene. We connect in person, face-to-face with the incident commander and say, what details do you have? They give us a rundown, and then we say, all right, here are our recommendations for the messaging strategy. They give us a thumbs up or direction on that, and then we start working on details from there.
Yeah. Okay.
So a lot of times the initial, reports are, teams working on the ground. We don't have a lot of details. Stick with us or follow this or come back here at whatever time and we'll give you as much information as possible. So our responsibility is to minimize the friction between what's happening and the people that need to know it.
Right.
And so one of the things, we actually went through this in training recently. One of the things that they always try to inject is, national news wants to talk to you about so-and-so. And you say, well, we're going to do a press conference at 10. Oh, we want to do it at 7. Okay. We're going to do ours at 10.
Right.
My responsibility is not to the national news's audience and their appetite for creating views. It's to educating the community on life safety issues or whatever the case may be.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
So we try to maintain a clear focus on that, try to prevent ourselves from being distracted. And that's actually one of the things that we've learned over time. In our Joint Information Center, we have a whiteboard, and you'll have position assignments, so who's doing what, so that you can say, should I be doing X, Y, Z? Look to what it is that you're supposed to be doing. Okay, no. And then our messaging priorities, so that the incident commander doesn't have to think about that stuff.
Right.
And we can be responsible for that.
And I'll give kudos to you guys on that because being a Pearland resident and neighboring communities and things like that, the response time is great. So
thank you. Appreciate that.
A lot of people's like, well, man, I don't know. And you got people when stuff happens, people in other communities like, man, I haven't heard from the city. We don't know what's going on.
Right.
But for you guys, it's like, it's right there. Yeah. It's on point.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure Jasmine was tired of seeing the hurricane barrel graphic, but I mean, it was important information sometimes, multiple times a day. And so it was yeah, no, we've learned a lot. I always go back to the winter storm when we did the daily videos with the mayor and just really try to consolidate all the thoughts that were coming out from a single day, pack that into a 1-minute video, and then get that out to the community, right? Yeah. Because we were seeing other people in neighboring communities pushing out some really long form messaging that was kind of tough. Yeah,
we try to think about we try to be sensitive to the circumstances of that situation. So in Winter Storm Uri, especially before the power was really turned back on, making sure that people had bite-sized content that didn't consume a lot of battery life on their phone. So producing video content, but also pushing out voice messages that had the same information. Yep. That was just a robocall, right? Yep. And it's communications, I think, at least from my perspective, is a thing that we're always trying to get better, right? People communicating and communication evolving has been happening since the beginning of time. Yep. And we're just doing our best to try to stay as in front of it as possible. But I think that's one of the things that makes it interesting is that, I get bored easily, but I don't get bored here because there's always something.
It is.
I was talking to a student at Lamar University the other day, and she was asking me about like day-to-day work, and I was like, man, one day I'm manufacturing awards for people, and the next day I'm climbing a water tower. Like, there's no, I say climbing, I'm riding up in a bucket,
right?
Top of water
shaking
tower.
In your boots,
no, in my loafers, man. I was not prepared for that day at all. But like, it's our job is so wild and varied, and it's interesting because it's local government, it's a hard industry to get people excited about.
It is. And that's, tying that into a lot of people want to know the why, right? And so that's my question to you guys. Like, what's the why for being here? Like, to serve people, what's the why?
Man. Have you done podcasts before?
Yeah, we'll get there.
So that's actually, so I mentioned to you before we started, we don't script any of this. We do always like to end them with the why conversation. Gotcha. We want to know about yours. So we'll get to yours. I'll tell you mine now because I always I like to share it. But I spent a lot of time thinking about it and a lot of time trying to develop the concept for us. And mine has been, it hasn't really changed a lot over, the recent history, but, with the job that I do here, it's to tell the stories of all the great work that all the subject matter experts are doing out there. So that the community that raised me, that made me who I am is inspired, engaged, and connected, right? I want people that live in this community to have an appreciation for all the work that you do. Because you're out there busting it every day, trying to make a great place for these people to live, and they should appreciate that. And so that's the thing that kind of I like that one because it's easy for me to remember, and then it's easier for me to reconcile against. Right? Yeah. If I need to do something, I can always say, "Does this match with what I'm trying to do, with what I'm trying to accomplish, big or small?" Right.
My why is, why are you laughing? My why is to make someone in the community's life a little easier, whether that's through good communication, a good interaction, anything, right? Whether that's something that's on social, something that's through a phone call, I think we are actually able to have that kind of impact to somebody, in the community. And I really value that on a daily basis. So that's my why, other than my family, right? That's always the first one. But I won't jump to yours because we're going to ask you that last. Okay. That's what we'll get into.
Gotcha.
But it seems like you're just as good at asking questions as at answering. And Josh kind of alluded to it, but you're a podcaster, right?
Yes, sir.
Tell me about that.
I run a podcast called Free Conversation.
Okay.
I've been running it for about 3 years. Got traction, but not a lot.
Hey.
My base of the podcast is I had a best friend before she passed away last year back in Wisconsin, and we were having a conversation about something. We were working with a nonprofit in our high school up north, and we're talking to the principal, and we're trying to put it like something like a business plan together or something to try to help out the youth. So we work with the youth a lot up there, And I was talking one day. I was like, man, I got these ideas. And she was like, man, you know what? You talk too much, but I like it. And one day it was like we just came up with the name Free in Conversation. So it was like I never had the ideas or dreams to do a podcast, but when we got together and did it, it just flowed.
Right.
So Free Conversation, that's how that came about. And what we talk about is pretty much of anything. So if you're going through, career change, you're in school, you need any type of advice, we can sit on a podcast and not talk if you want to. You know, it's kind of just a platform so you can come and just be you. Cool. You know, and a lot of people don't know what that means when I say just be you. You know, sometimes it's like a lot of people don't know what that means. You know, like even when you're 70, 80 years old, you don't know what that means. Right. So when I say be you, I just mean just be present. You know, and when you be present, things just flow. And that's kind of how we go about it. And we allow anybody to come on and we just have a natural conversation.
Very cool. So whenever you go into an episode, do you have an idea of like what you want to start with, or it's just you want it to be organic from the moment that you get rolling?
So I used to start it with, what you're most thankful with. And then it felt like it was just too much pressure. Right. So then after that, I said, okay, man, let's just go more organic. And kind of like, let's just talk, Very cool. And it starts, how's the day going? Or we can just have a natural, conversation and already be recording. You don't even know, because sometimes that pressure is like, man, a lot of people want to have the conversation, but it's that pressure. If I say something, I don't know if I'm saying the right thing or the wrong thing. So I say, man, let's just talk. Gotcha. Yeah. And it comes off smooth. Yeah. Oh, but right. It's a platform, and I have about 20 to 30 episodes that I haven't dropped. And I haven't dropped them because the episodes are like it's emotional. It's everywhere. It's some of everywhere. Yeah. And it's pure because when we came in, a lot of people that wanted to come on the platform and talk, they were kind of nervous. Like again, because I was saying like they didn't know how people will react to what they were saying, if they were saying the right things or the wrong things, or if they were giving advice, they didn't want to give the wrong advice. And I say, well, that's what the platform is for. Let's just talk, So I have about 20 to 30 episodes that's just not dropped yet, Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. I love podcasting.
I forget those places just jump right in.
Yeah, no, it's good.
I this summer talking with my
that was so random.
Talking with my friend, the Texas country reporter JB Sauceda.
Big flex. Yeah.
I talked to him one time.
Yeah.
But he mentioned something that I thought was interesting. He said that, at least from his observation, the internet's getting tired of the like whole meme thing, like to an extent. Yeah. And there's a bigger appetite for authentic content. Correct. Original type ideas and things like that. And I'm like, man, he's right. Like,
no, for sure.
I'm so tired of the videos of people watching other videos. Like,
that's a good point.
None of that makes sense to me. Yeah. And I'm kind of with you. Like I got a buddy that we do some dumb content, and it's just dads being dads. Like we have a video called like two middle-aged men put a hitch on a camper. They're very like, no, that's exactly what it is. It's just us putting a new trailer hitch on a camper.
And you'll be surprised how many people need to see that or needed that.
For sure.
And I think that's the day in the life of content now. When people put stuff out there, someone's going to watch it. Somebody needed to hear that or see that, But I agree, sometimes it gets deep. It's like, what are we doing now? Is this content or is this a money grab? I don't know. Like, what are we doing now? Yeah.
Well, and I'm always surprised by the little things. And I mean, there's been TED Talks about this and stuff, but like you might say something or do something that never even sticks with you, resonates with you. To somebody else, it was impactful or powerful. Yeah. And the impact that we just have, interacting between people is part of that experience. It's part of like it shapes us all.
Yeah.
And so I think that, I mean, a platform like that sounds really cool.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, I love, I mean, obviously that's why we do this podcast the way we do, is because we're more fascinated with how the conversation is going to turn out. We don't ever want to like plan for that. And it sounds like it's kind of the same thing there too, you know, because we've had some random segues, and then we've had some conversations that kind of got emotional a little bit, or you know, and it's been fascinating, and I think that just adds back to the fact of the, you know, there's people behind this organization. That's
well, and you look at all the different types of things that we do, both in internal communication as well as external communication, and there's no other format that allows us to get to know somebody as well as this does.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and not just like the things that they do, but like who they are, how they got here, why they, you know, do what they do, different things like that. I mean, there is a place for long form content in conversations like this, I think.
Sure.
Yeah. And they become more natural and genuine. I think when you just be open and you say, hey man, let's conversate, let's do it, you know. You break that bridge and that comfort zone between people, because we all work together, you know, but a lot of people's like, well, maybe I'm going to say too much, or maybe I'll say too less,
right.
You know, what that'll look like. But when you open the door for people to come in and have those conversations, it gets a lot easier, you know. I think I forgot who was on it and I talked to that was on the show with you guys, and they were like, man, little did they know they broke a barrier for me, because I'm bad with public speaking. Like, I'm bad with talking to people in front of me. But
they never told us that.
Yeah. And so we had a conversation after, you know, I told her, I was like, well, that was a great out. You know, you hit some nuts and some bolts right there. You hit it on point. And she was like, well, I didn't even feel like it. Well, when you just let things flow and you let it be free, it happens. And that's what you guys provide here. You open up doors for people to have that comfort zone, and that's what's important, you know.
Yeah.
Especially working, you know, and that's what I'm building on. Even with the team I have, it's like, I understand things go on at home, you know. So when you come to work, let's get on the basis. Let's see what's going on first. Right. And I'll excuse me, but I've never the titles. So I've always loved like just being natural. Like, so if I come in, if I'm the supervisor and the guy needs help in the hole, I'm getting my butt in the hole. Yeah. Before I notice he needs help.
Right.
We get to the job site, I'm getting my butt in the hole, you know. Or when it comes to training, it's not like, hey man, you're grown, you should know it. It's like, we all have different learning curves. We're raised different, you know, and all that ties a part of how you learn, how you react to things. So if my guys call me and say, man, I can't get this inspection right, if I got to go out there 10 times, I go out there 10 times, because naturally over time they're getting better at what they're doing, because you're taking your time with them. You're being by their side, no matter the age, size, or height anybody is. But I think that's what drives people, and this is where it starts, when you can have those open conversations where you can go to the guys in a hole or the people upstairs and you can say, hey man, let's just talk. Because naturally, like I said, we are here to do a job, but it's different when you do the job and then somebody can really connect to you and talk about the job and things outside the job. It feels like you're at home, you know, and that's how I feel here now at the city.
Well, and it's interesting you mention that, because, you know, I think about it like, I mean, we spend a lot of our time here, right?
Yes.
And, you know, one of the, I think, key elements of being able to be effective or to enhance the effectiveness of our work life is to be able to trust each other genuinely, right? To, like, you know, hopefully with my team, they see, you know, I try to be as candid as possible, right? I don't ever want them to feel like I'm withholding any information or anything like that with them.
I could tell it feels like home with it. It's all smiles. Like, I haven't seen, it's a lot of smiles every time I see you guys together. So
I also, I mean, I'm probably a little weird and a little silly a lot of times, you know, but I mean, that's just who I am. And one of the things, like, I heard not that long ago was like, you bring the weather with you. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that speaks volumes, right? And I don't want to invest my time, professionally speaking, in creating a culture and instilling a culture where people don't feel like they can't bring them their whole selves to work. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, everybody that we work with, they're super talented. Yeah. And they just need the opportunity to shine, right? To lean into that. Yep. And I think that we're doing good with building that culture.
Yeah.
But we have to intentionally invest in it. And it starts with conversations. It starts with time.
Yep.
Investing time in one another.
For sure.
And that's with as busy as everybody is, that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've started doing as a team is once a quarter we do a little 4-hour mini retreat where we sit, like there's no output. It's all right, let's talk about the things. Could be, the struggles we're having, internally, or a struggle we're having with a department or a process or whatever the case may be.
Yes.
But you got to take time to circle the wagons and go, all right, how do we fix this? Or what's the thing that's slowing us down or whatever, if we're just focused on output the whole time, we're doing ourselves a disservice as well as the organization and community.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah.
Man, you should just come take over the podcast for us.
I know. We'll have guest hosts.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Every time. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Rotate you in.
So I want to get a little bit more into you. So from Wisconsin to Texas, how did that happen?
Funny story.
Did you say plain story?
Funny story.
Funny story. I was like, oh, cool. Wait. Nice.
So I graduated high school 2019, I'm sorry. We had a family reunion in Missouri, and my grandma stayed out there, and then my aunt stays here in Pearland. And so we were going to meet up in Missouri, and we got there, and my aunt's like, well, come visit Texas. And I'm like, no, I heard it's too hot. I don't want to go. And she kept saying it, and we finally came to the last day of the family reunion, I believe, and her husband said to my uncle, and he's like, well, come on. And I was like, all right, I'll go. So I was planning to stay 3 days, called my job and said, hey, take 3 more days off. And he's like, all right, that's fine. And so we drove back, got down here, supposed to stay 3 days, stayed 2 weeks.
Dang.
My brother came with me, which is 2 years younger than me, and he went back to finish high school. I stayed, never went back.
What?
Well, I drove back to get my stuff, and then I came back and never went back.
That's wow.
But yeah, and then did trade school for HVAC, finished that, community college, and then this March I just graduated from U of H. So It's been a journey. Like I'm not from here, but it feels like home.
Yeah,
it really feels like home. So
I mean, to be that confident, like from a family reunion, to just end up in Texas. I mean, that's
really cool. Yeah. What was it about here that just felt right, or that attracted you, or what?
It felt family oriented.
Yeah.
Like the city where I was from, it was violence. It was now I'm the type where when you come from your hometown, you say there's no opportunity. Mm-hmm. You know, I believe some people just don't want to look for the opportunity. You know, and I feel like that's how it was at home. And so when I had the opportunity to leave, I was like, I thought about it, and I was like, man, some people fight for the opportunity but never get it. Mm-hmm. Some people have the opportunity and never do anything with it. So I was like, well, you know what? I got it. Let me run. Let me go get it. And then that's how it happened, and ended up here. Yeah.
Fascinating. Where was your family at in Texas that you moved to? What, Houston area?
Pearland.
In Pearland?
Yeah,
okay.
in Pearland.
So that's what brought you here. Okay,
that's what brought me to Pearland. I was actually, during the HVAC school, we were about to graduate, and they got us all internships, and we was working with companies that they hired us with, but at the time I was like, this pay is low, you know, my aunt, them, and by the grace of God, they moved me in the house. They had a family of 4 at the time, and, you know, I tried to help out on bills and things like that. I was working 3 jobs. I did Kroger third shift, Walgreens, and Ross, and I was working 3 of those, and then I got hired to the HVAC company, and then I was just doing a third shift job. And they brought me in. I tried to help out on bills and things like that, but they wouldn't take it. And so after that, I did the application for Pearland, I want to say in June. I got a call back in December. So I want to say, and I was already hired with the HVAC company, and I was doing good, moving up a little bit. And something told me to come here. I don't know what told me to come here, but something told me, hey, go try the city. You ain't got nothing to lose, you know. It took a pay cut, but it was like, you don't got anything to lose, so came here.
That's awesome.
That's great, man.
I'm glad I did.
Yeah. It's good. We need people like you, man.
For sure.
It's one of those things, like, for me, I never, local government wasn't on my radar, you know, and I didn't know how any of it worked until I came to work here, and I'm like, oh, dang.
Yeah.
Like, there's a bunch, like, there are so many different things that we do, and people should care so much about this.
Right.
And they don't. And it's such a fascinating industry.
Yeah.
And it's always interesting to me to see the perceptions that people have in the community, versus what the reality of the situation is.
Right. Yeah.
Especially on the enterprise side, especially on the Pearland Water side. I mean, the comments, I really struggle with, like, oh, it's easy to provide water to people. Like, okay, let's walk through what that process looks like.
Yeah, I was in a training yesterday, and they were saying, if all the water operators and everybody that runs water and sewer plants, if they were leave for 2 days, 3 days, or a week, the world was shut down.
Yeah.
Right.
And so when I got in the industry, I was like, it's a need and it's important. And that right there drives a whole lot, and a lot of people don't know that. Yeah.
Well, and the comment I always make, especially when I talk to new hires, on the water side, people only care about it when it either stops coming into or stops leaving their house. And it makes sense, right? We put our wastewater facilities in places where they're away from neighborhoods and things like that. Are the only thing that they really see are the water towers, the pressure, the elevated storage tanks, and then everything else is underground.
Yep.
And so of course people forget about it because it's not right in front of them all the time. That's actually the whole reason we created the Pearland Water brand, is because there was no recognizable brand for this whole utility, and it's $130 million, $118 million a year business.
Yeah.
I mean, you've never seen a private sector business worth that much money that doesn't have branding associated with it. And
I agree.
I noticed with council, not just council, but like in budgeting conversations where you talk tax rate. Well, they talk tax rate and water rate, and you'd end up conflating the two. And so just trying to create separation, like, no, these are two wholly separate things from one another.
Yep.
And trying to create the visibility of, you pay a water rate, it goes into this thing. It's a self-sustaining but not profit-making business, and it's really, really, really expensive to build and maintain.
And keep it running. Yeah. The infrastructure of that is, a lot of people don't understand. That's how I was actually when I came. I was like, man, I did not know where we got our water from. We flush the toilet, it's gone, and that's it. But when I started working on the repair side, I was like, it makes sense now. Yeah. And I started taking it serious, and I was like, I got excited. I was like, man, I want to learn everything. Yeah. Cool. Because this is interesting. Where you drink water, you shower in water every day, but you don't know where it comes from. And then you work and you're like, wow, it's this much that goes into it. Yeah. So it's interesting.
The wastewater treatment plant tours and the surface water treatment plant, some of the coolest things we've ever done.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I know you got your associate's degree in marketing, right? Marketing, advertising?
Marketing, yep. Public relations, yep.
And you were you were here when we developed the Pearland Water brand.
Yep.
So what do you think of it? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to ask you.
You definitely did. I'm sure you probably heard this before, but it looks like a well in the water.
I've heard a lot worse.
But I think it's something
does look
different.
Like a whale. I didn't realize that until it totally does.
Yeah, I definitely think it's something different, and I think it'll take time, but I think people will grow on it. It's just different, and it has its unique meaning. So it's like you came up with something that a lot of other cities don't have, or a lot of communities, or even our logo with the circle and then the name around it. That's pretty much what every city has. So. Right. This specifically for utilities is important. Yeah. Like I said, I think it'll grow, and I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's growing, has so much more potential to grow. I think now that the water towers are rehabbed, and you start seeing them on there. And the other day we went out to go fly the new surface water treatment plant. I pull up, they got the nice stone sign out front, and it's got the branding on it. And I was just like, that looks really clean. Like,
and we're going to have behind the front desk, we're going to have a giant acrylic.
Right.
Acrylic
but it's just, all those little things that are slowly building to that brand that just, you start to pick up and realize the impact of it.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I liked that one. It does look like a whale. But because it is so simple, it works just kind of on its own.
I was just about to say that.
And that's what on the elevated storage tank we have here. For those listening, I'm pointing to our water tower that's right here in Liberty. That was the first one that we painted, and it was risky. But I said, we should just do the pair, like nothing else, and just let the brand build on its own.
Yeah.
Because it should be able to stand just the way that it does. And I have gotten. My son loves the dead whale comment. Looks like a dead whale. It's real funny.
Yeah.
But I mean, it certainly does. Yeah. And we don't have to take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah. And we sent out emails with the templates and everything, and people were like, "This is City of Pearland? I've never seen this before." And it was like, "Oh, I've seen this before on the tank or anything, And a lot of people, you're getting good feedback from it, so it's growing.
Well, and we're starting to see, at least some shift in the sentiment towards a positive. Not everything we put out is met with frustration or just, I don't know another word.
Yeah.
People tend to have there's a bit more understanding or positivity towards the content that we put out. Because we do want people to understand and appreciate the value of water and how hard it is to be a high quality water system, municipal water system like we have.
Yeah.
So, associate's degree in marketing. You just finished at the U of H.
Yes.
What's your bachelor's? You got a bachelor's degree?
Yes.
What's your degree in now?
Construction management.
Man, with a background in
That's
marketing.
Cool. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
You're going to be running CIP before too long.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Tell Lorenzo to watch out. Kidding.
Now, I wanted to apply. I wanted to apply for a job, but the only thing that stopped me graduating in March, I like where I'm at. I feel like I haven't learned everything I can learn.
Sure.
Like I always tell people, it's more about the effect and less about the money, you know. Yeah. And I have to tell my family that sometimes. Like, it's not about the money. Hey, let's live below our means for a while, but I have to learn this. I don't want to, next license, next this, and let's move along because of the money. Sure. So, and then the team too. When I first got on and I got my degree, I was like, well, I could possibly move more money. I did think about that at first.
Sure.
And then I slowed down. I said, well, the team, they just got over here. They transferred. I was like, I can't do that. And I got to take my time. And now it's like, the team and the people I work around, we're growing off each other, and that's way more bigger than the money.
So you think you see yourself at some point being in project management, or I mean, what are you going to do here at the city?
I love Backflow.
Yeah,
I love Backflow. I run a small construction company.
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
My dad, he's in CNC, and he invested in he owned a CNC shop up north. He's trying to retire. He invested into my company, and do a lot of private work, but I don't know if I love Backflow here where I'm at right now.
Gotcha. Wait. So you're doing construction like in your spare time?
Yeah.
Golly. Yeah. Do you sleep ever? Or?
Yeah, some sleep, some
sleep. Yeah. Between the podcast,
We do a lot of work in Humble right now. The company's called Golden Glove Construction. So we do a lot of new homes, work with Meritage a lot. We did a school, worked on a school. So some of it, when I first went into homes, was construction manager. You get subcontractors, things like that. I was over like 6 homes at a time. Slowly went into where now I just subcontract a lot. But it's fun. It's a fun experience. Yeah.
Golden Gloves, are you a boxer?
I wish.
I can see you being a boxer.
I was watching a movie one day and I forgot what movie it was, and it was crazy because I went to go write it down. I turned off the movie and I went to go writing down Golden Glove. I seen some gold boxing gloves in the movie, and I wrote that down. It was on my refrigerator for about 2 to 3 months. I kid you not. And I was like, okay, Golden Glove. I like that. Golden Glove Construction.
That sounds good.
Yeah. One day I was coming up with a name when doing my LLC stuff, and that was it. Yeah, and that's how. It's crazy how that worked out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You want to tell them your business name?
Yeah. So I as well have a business on the side.
Okay.
My friend that I mentioned that we started doing content, and it's not even for like, it's really for us. We're just documenting the silly things that we do and the things that we work on. And so apparently I like squarely hit my midlife crisis this year. And one of the things that I did was I bought a welder to teach myself how to weld.
Okay.
And my friend who I do this content with, he has the exact same welder. He knew how. He sort of taught me what he knew. And so we started this little side business called Good Enough Welding.
I love it. I love it.
It's quality you can afford.
I love it.
It's not going to be pretty, but like it's going to hold.
It's going to hold,
yeah. And so we've done a couple, like mainly like we do trailer repairs, and I do some, like I built some firewood holders and stuff.
Okay.
And, I'm working on some art installations, but really it was like, just getting stick time so that I can, learn how to actually put metal together and learn a new craft, Is
that more craft like a hobby that turned into a...
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't I bought the welder because I was interested in learning, and then all of a sudden these projects show up out of nowhere. What? Oh. All these projects like, hey, and I got this, and so it's like, well, bring it over and we'll see what we can do. And then the most recent one, a buddy of mine, actually need to get the content all exported so that I feel bad. Kenny does all the editing because my computer's not fast enough to do any of it. So, but a friend of mine, he had a little 6x10 utility trailer, and he had wooden frame rails around it, and they were all rotted out and fell apart. And I happened to mention, I was like, well, you could go back with metal. We could do square tubing. And I don't know what I was thinking, but I sent him the recommendation for the steel to buy, and it was 1/4 inch wall thickness, 1.25 inch square tubing.
Wow.
We doubled the weight of his trailer.
Oh, shoot. Yeah.
It's so heavy.
What type of welder do you use?
It's a MIG welder.
MIG? Okay.
It's a wire feed MIG.
Gotcha.
And I tell you what, man, I seam welded. So we did 3 uprights on one side, 3 on the other, 2 on the front. And then I actually had a piece of 3x2 rectangular tubing that was also 1/4 inch. I cut it in half, and we used those as the slot for the board in the back as a backstop. And so we welded the square tubing to that, and then all the uprights. And I seam welded every single bit of that.
Oh, yeah.
That thing is, I mean, you could turn it upside down and
it's
drag
not
it down
breaking.
like that. But it's been, it's one of those things like it's sort of soothing for me to get out there and just like put my mask down and start sticking metal together,
Yeah.
It's like my little therapy session.
It is fun. Yeah.
Put on my little, rage music, and
there you go. Yeah.
just go to town with the welder around you. It's fun stuff.
Yep.
Gets me outside, gets me in the garage.
All right. Well, our producers are telling us we're short in time here, so.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. So like I said, we always like to end these with our why, right? Have you done the why exercise? Have you done that with us?
I don't believe I have.
You haven't. Okay. Well, I'm glad you're thinking about it. So what's your why? What's the thing that gets you going every day?
My why is just acts of servitude. I like to see people happy, and to get deeper with it is you do something and you see a reaction. Like it's just like building a house, and there's nothing there, and then you look at the end product, right, or the end goal of that. And so when I talk to people, I like to figure out a problem or figure out how we can solve a problem. Why am I here? And that was every day I work with the city. My why is figured out. It's answered to me a lot clearly. So just being in servitude of other people and being able to do that means understanding people. Why do I understand people? What do I understand about people? Why do I want to understand things about people? And being at the city helped me understand that a lot more.
That's awesome.
That's my biggest thing is being able to be in servitude.
Yeah.
That can be a conversation. That can be a hug. That can be, hey, fixing a backflow, testing a backflow. That can be building a house. That can be whatever it may look to you. If I don't know how to do it, I'll figure it out.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Sure. Good for you, man.
Love that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Especially when in DNC used to go out there and used to fix water leaks, and It's like you got the customer, they're just calling because they have the water leak, but they don't know, hey, I can't touch it, it's private. They don't know hey, this is what I need to fix it. I go back to the shop or call somebody in. And when you see the reaction of those people's faces when you're able to fix something for them, it's like, oh my God, I really did that.
Yeah.
You know, so
see that impact.
That's what drives me a lot, you know.
Let's do a screen print of Nate's face with the caption that says, "Be like Nate."
I like it. Yeah.
We'll make T-shirts.
There you go. I like that.
What's up, right?
Yeah.
We can do coasters or like
Coasters.
Nate stickers.
Oh, that's good.
Man.
I love that.
Make it happen, Captain.
You got to make it happen.
No.
Make our own brand.
Well, we'll do that. I like that. If anything, it'll be a one-off.
Yeah.
No, that's good. Well, I appreciate you being here today, man.
Yeah.
It was
we thank you for taking the time.
super. I feel enlightened.
Oh, dude. I mean, this is. I love these conversations every time, but this one was extra special
For sure.
I appreciate it.
You have to come back, man. Or maybe we can get on your podcast sometime.
For sure.
That would be cool.
Let's set it up.
Maybe we can do some ASMR. What is it? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. We can do some I'll get some I don't know. You know how you do the little clicky thing? Because you have that you click on stuff. I'm looking at Jasmine. She's my connection to youth. You know,
Youth culture. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
to the youth.
Oh man.
Okay, so I guess we should wrap this up. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Nate, for being here. Nathaniel, Bartholomew.
Till next time.
All right, y'all. See you next time.